Friday, June 30. Hard to believe it, but Friday before the 4th of July weekend. I have had an interest rate hypothesis for at least a year since the Fed began to push up on short-term rates. That the reason that long-term rates have not gone up and in fact have gone down, one of the primary forces has been overseas central banks. The European Central Bank and Bank of Japan, between them, are buying $150 billion per month of bonds, which sucks supply out of the global system and makes ours look more and more attractive. And our yields are sky high compared to overseas bonds. Japanese 10-year bonds trade near zero yield. German bonds for months have been about 0.25%, and U.S. 10-year yields are 10 times that high, putting pressure on our rates, holding them down, even though the Fed is coming. And we got validation this week. On Tuesday, the head of the European Central Bank, Mario Draghi, mumbled. I mean, it wasn't an announcement, it wasn't clear, there's no timing attached to it, but he mumbled about the prospect of the ECB stopping its buying or tapering. Yet long-term interest rates all over the world went up, and they're still going up. They're not up a lot, but mortgage rates were trying to break through 4% going down, and we're finishing this week at 4 1/8. We're up not quite 1/4% for the week. I don't think there's going to be an explosion of some kind, but of the ocean of things out there to think about, overseas pressure is big. The week also, as the copy posted near this video says, this is a tough week to sort chaff from wheat, as in the American political landscape, especially the tweet storm yesterday in response. And the reality is, no matter how upsetting or pleasing the political events here may be to Americans, depending on where you land in the political spectrum, there's no real effect. We could test effect with something that appears on the web. What do markets do? And markets have done nothing. The reality from the financial markets viewpoint is that all of the stimulus ideas, from a healthcare fix to tax cuts to tax reform to infrastructure, that markets thought were coming last November, are not. The Republican Party itself is fractured within itself, and the ideas are fringe at best, and so nothing really happening on that end. We're dealing with economics, and the economy itself is chugging along just fine. It is the 4th of July, and I'm a history freak, among other things. And this 4th of July is the 100th anniversary, 100th, of the arrival of American troops in France in 1917. On the 4th of July, 1917, a ceremony was at the tomb of the Marquis de Lafayette. That's the Lafayette who arrived in America in, I think, 1778 as the bringer of French assistance to the American Revolution. We wouldn't have made it without the French. And so here came the first American troops. And Pershing spoke no French and wanted one of his officers to say something appropriate in French. And the officer stood and said, "Lafayette, nous voilà," which translates roughly as, "Lafayette, we are here. We are here to repay our debt of honor." And France in 1917, one French man in 8 by then was either dead or wounded or crippled. The French army was bled so white that it had mutinied. And here came then a battalion of the 16th United States Infantry marching through Paris. These big, healthy, strong American men. And the crowds beside the parade were French women, boys, and old men. There wasn't anybody else. Anybody else was in the trenches who was left. And so here we are 100 years to the 4th of July later. And much talk in America about greatness. And And greatness sometimes comes from just having the courage to act like it. Have a great 4th of July.